She's kidnapping that child." The words sliced through the peaceful morning air like a sharp knife. I was at the front of the line at the coffee shop, waiting for my latte, when I heard the white woman shout. At first I thought I'd misheard. People say weird things sometimes, and I didn't want to assume. But when I turned toward the street, I saw her hands shaking, phone already to her ear, her voice rising with panic. She was pointing straight at a black woman holding a little white boy in her arms. Everyone froze. For a second it was like we were all waiting for someone else to explain what was going on. The black woman, maybe in her early 30s, looked stunned. The boy in her arms, she couldn't have been older than 3, clung to her like she was his lifeline. "Ma'am, what are you talking about?" the black woman asked, her voice tight. The white woman ignored her, speaking louder into the phone. "Yes, I'm on Grove Street. There's a black woman here with a white child, and I think she's abducting him. Please hurry." The boy's small voice broke the silence. "Mommy?" I don't know why that moment hit me so hard. Maybe because it was so innocent, just a little kid saying mommy. But the woman accusing her didn't hear it, or maybe didn't believe it. "You're scaring my son," the black woman snapped, taking a step back. Her face showed anger now, but I could see something else there too. Fear and shame, like maybe this wasn't the first time someone had made her feel like she didn't belong. By now, other people were paying attention. I saw phones come out ready to film like this was some kind of entertainment. A guy near me muttered, "She's probably his mom," but he didn't say it loud enough to matter. I wanted to speak up. I wanted to do something, but, for a moment, I didn't. I just stood there watching it all play out. It didn't take long for the cop to show up. That's when it got worse. The police car pulled up fast, sirens off but lights flashing. A white officer got out and walked straight to the black woman like it was already decided, like there wasn't a chance she could be innocent. "Ma'am, is there a problem here?" he asked, his voice clipped. The white woman wasted no time. "Yes, I told your dispatcher. This black woman has a white child, and it looks suspicious. I'm almost positive he's been kidnapped." The black woman held her son tighter, her voice shaking. "This is my child, my son." The officer looked at her, eyebrows raised. He didn't ask for her side first, didn't even look at the boy. "I just need you to calm down," he said. "Calm down?" I felt anger bubbling inside me. "She's calm," I wanted to shout. "You're talking to the wrong person." "This is a mistake," she said firmly. "I don't need to calm down." She reached into her bag with one hand, still holding her son in the other, and pulled out her wallet. "I have his birth certificate in here. I keep it with me because of situations just like this." Situations like this. The words stung, even though they weren't directed at me. I felt my cheeks burn with embarrassment, because I knew what she meant. Black parents carrying proof of parenthood just in case. The officer stayed silent. The white woman still looked smug, like she was saving the day. "That's his mother," a man's voice suddenly said loudly. I turned to see a white guy in a t-shirt and a ball cap speaking up. He was holding his phone like he'd been recording everything. "The kid literally called her mommy 2 minutes ago." "You're embarrassing yourself, lady." The woman's confidence cracked, but she quickly fought back. "I was just being careful." I couldn't take it anymore. I finally said something. "Careful? You called the police on a mom holding her child. You didn't ask. You didn't check. You just assumed. Look at her. Look at him." The officer paused, maybe for the first time really seeing what was in front of him. The little boy was clinging to his mom's neck now, whimpering. He looked scared and confused, like any kid would when strangers were yelling and accusing their parent of something unthinkable. "Ma'am," the officer said to the black woman, softer now, "do you have identification?" "I already told you I have it right here." She opened her wallet again and handed him a document and her ID. The officer studied it for a few seconds, then nodded awkwardly. "It checks out," he said, like this was some transaction, like a mistake this bad could just check out. The white woman's face fell. I didn't know," she stammered. "I just saw." "You just saw my skin," the black woman said sharply, stepping toward her. "That's what you saw." The white woman opened her mouth, but no words came out. She looked at the ground. The cop shifted like he wanted to leave. "Sorry for the inconvenience," he mumbled to the black woman before heading back to his car. "Have a good day." "A good day?" I stared at him, stunned. The black woman shook her head with a bitter laugh. She looked around at all of us now, the witnesses, people with phones still filming. People like me who had stood there silently at first. "I hope you all see this," she said. "Because this isn't new." Her words were heavy. Truth always is. She turned to go, kissing the little boy on the forehead as he snuggled into her shoulder. "It's okay, baby," she whispered. "We're okay." The white woman stayed frozen, still holding her phone like she was unsure what to do with it. Finally, she walked off quickly without saying another word. The crowd began to thin out. The man who spoke up earlier shook his head as he walked past me. "All that because she's black?" he muttered. Unreal. I didn't know what to say. He was right, though. Unreal. Except for one thing. It wasn't. It was very, very real. The black woman walked down the sidewalk, clutching her son close as he started to calm down. I watched her leave, and for some reason I couldn't just go back to my day. My feet felt heavy, like I was rooted to the concrete, stuck in the awful moment I had just witnessed. Other people moved on quickly. That's how these things go. The police left. The white woman disappeared. People who filmed tucked their phones away and started walking off, probably to talk about it later over lunch or coffee. But I couldn't shake the image of her face the way she looked when she said, "This isn't new." I ended up leaving my coffee behind and walking outside. I don't know if it was guilt or shame or some combination of both, but I wanted to apologize, even though I wasn't the one who accused her or called the cops. Maybe I just wanted her to know I saw her. By the time I caught up, she was a block away, kneeling next to her son, checking his face. I slowed down, suddenly unsure what I would say. She stood up just as I approached, holding the boy on her hip. "Excuse me," I said quietly. Her posture stiffened, and I saw her eyes flicker with suspicion before settling into exhaustion. "What?" she asked flatly, shifting her son so he wouldn't hear us. I swallowed hard. I'm sorry. For what happened back there. I don't even know what to say. It was wrong." She raised an eyebrow. For a moment, it looked like she wasn't sure if I was being sincere, or if I was just another person trying to ease my own guilt. "I didn't do anything," I blurted out. "But maybe that's the problem. I didn't say anything until after it already started, and it doesn't feel right to just walk away now." Her expression softened slightly, though she still looked wary. "What's your name?" "Mike," I answered. "Mike, this kind of thing happens all the time. You might think this was extreme, but it's not unusual for us." She glanced down at her son, who was blinking sleepily against her shoulder, then back at me. "Do you know how many times someone's assumed I'm his babysitter? Or given me a look like I don't belong? But this is the worst yet." I rubbed the back of my neck, feeling my face go hot. "I don't know how you deal with it." She looked me straight in the eye. "You don't have to know. We don't have a choice. I still have to take care of my son and go about my day, even after something like this. But it shouldn't be just on us, Mike." I nodded, feeling ashamed, but I knew she was right. "You're right," I said. "You're absolutely right. I wish I'd done something sooner." She studied me for a second, maybe deciding whether or not she believed me. "Well, maybe next time you will. Maybe next time, people like you won't wait until it's too late to say something." The words hit hard. They weren't said in anger or bitterness. She sounded tired, like someone who'd carried too much for too long. Her son mumbled something, his little voice too soft to make out. She smiled at him gently and kissed the side of his face before meeting my eyes again. "I've got to get on with my day," she said finally. "Take care, Mike." "You too," I replied weakly. She turned and walked away, disappearing into the afternoon crowd. I stood there for a while, feeling the weight of everything that had just happened. I replayed it in my head, how quickly the accusation had happened, how slow the truth had come out, and how no one, including Med, did anything until it was too late. I thought about how easily the story could have ended differently, how, if she didn't have the paperwork, things might have spiraled out of control. If the boy had cried, if someone had been rough with her, if she had been too upset to stay calm. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was bigger than that. As I finally started walking back toward my car, I couldn't get her words out of my head. "Maybe next time, people like you won't wait." I told myself it wouldn't happen again. If I saw something like that in the future, I wouldn't stay quiet. But it scared me to admit that it had taken a scene like that for me to realize just how fragile normal life is when people refuse to see each other for who they really are. But it scared me to admit that it had taken a scene like that for me to realize just how fragile normal life is when people refuse to see each other for who they really are. Some moments change the way you see the world, and some moments change the way you see yourself. The rest of the day felt heavy. I couldn't shake what I'd seen, and the way I just stood there at first, frozen. It lingered, like a bad taste I couldn't spit out. I tried to go back to my usual routine, picked up another coffee, answered emails, sat in a meeting where I barely heard a word, but nothing felt normal. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, exhausted, frustrated, resigned. Like this wasn't new. Like this wouldn't be the last time. By the time I got home that evening, I felt wrung out. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my hands. My wife, Jenna, noticed right away. "Long day?" she asked, pouring herself a glass of water. I hesitated. "I saw something today," I said. She set her glass down and looked at me. "What happened?" I told her everything, how the woman shouted, how the cops showed up, how the little boy called her mommy and nobody listened until she pulled out proof, how the white woman who called the police just walked away. I tried to explain the uneasiness I felt afterward, like a mix of shame and anger at myself for doing too little, too late. Jenna's face went pale as I talked. "Jesus," she muttered. "That poor woman." "Yeah," I said quietly. "And her son." Jenna sat across from me. "Did you say anything when it happened?" "Not right away," I admitted. "Some guy spoke up before I did." Jenna was quiet for a long moment, her brow furrowed. "You know, I've read stories like that online. I always thought, what kind of person could call the cops over something so ridiculous? And now—" She shook her head, disbelief on her face. "Now I get how easy it is for everyone else to just do nothing," I said. I leaned back in the chair. "That's what makes me sick about it, Jen. Nobody else helped her, until after it spiraled. We were all just standing there like statues, me included." "You tried, Mike," she said softly. "Not soon enough." The words felt like a stone in my throat. What if she didn't have his papers with her? What happens then? Jenna didn't have an answer for that, because we both knew how bad it could have gone. After dinner, I sat on the couch flipping through the news, feeling distracted. As I scrolled, I recognized a familiar image on the screen, a video. Someone had posted what happened online, one of the people who recorded it. I clicked the link. There it was, the white woman pointing, the cop arriving, the black woman holding her child. I heard her voice through my headphones, calm but sharp, cutting through the chaos. "This is my child." Thousands of people had commented already, some angry, some supportive, others saying it wasn't a big deal, or that the woman who called the cops was just being cautious. I turned the video off. Watching it made me feel even worse. Because to the internet, this was already becoming entertainment. Another viral story about a black person wrongly accused. Another 30-second moment people could debate in comment sections before moving on. But it wasn't entertainment to that mother and her son. To them, it was real life. I went to bed late that night, still restless. As I lay there in the dark, Jenna asleep beside me, I thought again about what the woman said. Maybe next time, people like you won't wait. What would I do next time? I had always thought of myself as one of the good guys, someone who wasn't part of the problem. But now I realized being not racist wasn't enough. I couldn't pat myself on the back for standing silently on the sidelines while someone else's life was turned upside down. Silence is easy, I thought, but silence doesn't help. Over the next few days, the video of the incident spread, getting picked up by a few news sites. The black woman spoke in one interview, using just her first name, Tanya. She shared how painful it was, how humiliating. "I'm trying to raise my son to believe he belongs in this world." Moments like that take something away from us. I don't know if people understand how deep it goes. Her words cut through me. A week later, I saw another situation, something smaller. Nothing close to what happened that day. I was at the grocery store. A cashier, a white kid, barely 20, was talking down to a black woman in line, snapping at her like she was bothering him for asking a question about a coupon. "You don't need to take that tone with her," I said before I could stop myself. The words surprised even me, but they came out steady. The cashier looked up, startled. "I didn't mean anything." "Then change your tone," I replied. The black woman smiled faintly in my direction, then looked back at the cashier. "Thank you," she told him, as if to say, "I'm not the one being unreasonable." Afterward, as I left the store, I felt the smallest bit lighter, like maybe I was learning. Like maybe I wouldn't wait anymore. Because Tanya was right. It shouldn't be just on her. Or people like her. It wasn't their job to prove they belonged. It was mine and everyone else's to speak up and stop making excuses for the people who couldn't see beyond their assumptions. Some moments change the way you see the world. Some moments change the way you see yourself. And sometimes, if you let them, those moments can change what you do next.